with Olivia, and in this video, I will be going over my top 10 or 12 favorite movies. Now, I haven't decided which one I'm going to do yet. I have 12 written down on this list, but that's kind of a lot, and I kind of want to pare it down to 10, but we'll just see, because I really cannot pick between some of these. Now, at the bottom of the list, in the 10th or 12th place, is going to be my least favorite out of all these movies. And the top of the list is going to be my favorite. Like, my favorite movie, period. Like, just in general. Now, since I'm only 15, and I haven't seen every single movie in the world, this list may get changed at some point in my future when I see more movies. But for now, let's get started. Okay, so at the very bottom of my list, we have the movie Coraline. Now, I already did do a Coraline review, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But I'm also not going to go over, like, a ton since I already did a review to begin with. But I love this movie. I could honestly watch it over and over again. It's so cute. And it's just very interesting and different. I mean, the claymation and some of the characters are just very intriguing. I honestly really love this movie. And it's one of those movies where it's not, like, super serious and super long. So I can watch it, like, as many times. It's honestly, like, a comfort film for me, to be honest. It's better than, like, Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride because it's brighter, more colorful, and it just has a better story and plot, in my opinion. And Coraline herself is very sassy and hilarious. Now, I really can't give, like, too much away about this movie without spoiling it because it's kind of a weird movie, but basically it's about this girl named Coraline. Her and her parents move into, like, this apartment house, and her parents don't really pay much attention to her because they're always busy. So she gets, like, bored and one day finds, like, this other weird room. So she goes through it and it leads to a different parallel universe of her life with, like, an other mother and father who are actually loving. But there's a price that she has to pay. And it turns out that other world wasn't exactly as great as she expected. It also teaches life themes like, hey, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Just because you think your life might be better if you had this or that, you're actually gonna struggle just the same as you do now, just with different scenarios. Like being rich versus poor, for example. I mean, it's very controversial. Personally, I think money does solve happiness. I mean, if I had like $1 billion, I'd be traveling the world, helping people. Like, come on. Who was really bored when they're that rich? They need to have experiences and find more things they can do. But even if you do have like a ton of money or whatever, you're still gonna have as much struggles as maybe people who don't, but just in a different format. So with Coraline, even though her other parents were loving and nice, there was still a price she had to pay. Kind of like a whole be careful what you wish for thing. Now, since I already reviewed that movie, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think I am gonna do my top 12 favorite movies, so that was 12th place. Now in 11th place, we have the movie Elvis. Like the Netflix Elvis Presley movie that came out in 2022. Kind of random and weird, but it was fun, okay? Yeah, it was long, very long movie, but the music was great, and I just love Elvis Presley, period. Like, I like his music and stuff, so honestly, I was into this movie. And it just has such, like, a cool backstory, and most of it is based on, like, true events. How Elvis got ripped off, and, like, how he kind of rose to power and fame. And then, you know, once he did that, he kind of, like most celebrities do, they get addicted to drugs or they end up getting themselves thrown into jail. You know, all that fun stuff. So I did like how this movie was, like, based on true events. I think, like, all of it was. I mean, there might have been, like, some made-up stuff. I know for sure it was based off of true events, like, that happened in Elvis's life. But I don't know if there were any, like, things in it that were made up for, like, dramatic effect. I like Doja Cat's twist on Elvis, how she sings in it. Even though her music kind of sucks and I really don't like her style at all, I did like her song in the movie. She did like a remixed version of Hound Dog. Tom Hanks was in this film, who played Colonel Tom Parker. He was really cringe in this movie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I like Tom Hanks, but in this movie, his character was, oh my gosh, I cannot. He always said like the cheesiest line over and over. Like, if y'all have ever seen that new Hunger Games movie, Ballad of the Songbird and Snakes or whatever, when Snow and the other guys, like, Snow always falls on top. That was basically the equivalent of this movie. I just, like, tried to Google it for, like, 5 hours, and it came up with nothing. I completely forgot what he said, but it was very cringe. I probably trauma blocked it, because he'd say it after every single line. That movie was good. the Elvis one that came out in 2022. I don't think they have it on Netflix anymore because I just tried to look it up on Netflix so I could find the line that he always says, but couldn't find it. Instead, they have a new one called like The Rise of Elvis Presley, which that's not the one I'm talking about. But anywho, I think his story is so cool and it made me so mad how Colonel Parker or whatever ripped him off and basically took his estate and all of his profit. I was like, are you kidding me? I would have fought him and lost. But anywho, I mean, I don't really know what to say much for like what happened in this movie. It was basically just about how Elvis rose to power and like how he became Elvis Presley. He was just a little kid who loved to sing and make music, but he always had like a weird way of doing things that was like considered improper back in the day and not what most singers did, where he'd do like different dance moves and kind of had like a weird way of singing. He was very controversial back in his time, and the movie did a great job of showing that. And the guy who played him looked just like him. I mean, I was like, am I watching a movie about like the actual Elvis Presley right now? Like, is he the actual actor? Which is impossible, but it was spot on, and all the acting was pretty good. I mean, for a movie based on like a true story and stuff, where some of the characters are like kind of lamer, they were actually pretty entertaining. It is long though. It's not like the Coraline one where I can just watch whenever I have to be in a certain mood. Although I just love musicals and movies with music in it in general. It always makes me happy. So personally, this one I could watch. Even though Colonel Parker was kind of annoying in this, I'll still watch it. Okay, and in 10th place, we have the movie Forrest Gump. I actually just recently watched this movie with my parents and brother and grandparents when they came down from Minnesota, and it was so good. It holds up so well. We loved it. Even my brother did, and he's 12. And Forrest was amazing, even though his name had some very bad historical ties. But yeah, he was just such a sweetie. My mama always told me life is like a box of chocolates. This movie moved very fast because there was constant, like, him doing things. Like, I love this movie because it was all over the place and he'd be doing the most random stuff. He'd be going to war. He'd just be chilling on the bus station. He'd be going to parties, having like tournaments with China. Gosh, what's that thing that you'd play where you hit the ball back and forth? I almost said pinball, but it's not pinball. Oh my gosh, it's blanking. It's like with the paddle and you have to hit the ball and it can only land on your side one time. Then you hit it back to the other person's side and they hit it back to you. My mind is seriously blanking today. I am so sorry, guys. I cannot remember the Elvis line that Tom Hanks always said. Now I can't remember what that sport is called where you hit the ball over the freaking table. It'll come to me like halfway through this video. But anywho, Forrest Gump is such a phenomenal movie. The actors and actresses are all amazing. And you can just really connect and feel with the characters. And it was just so sad. I mean, Jenny, her life, it was so sad. I mean, you kind of like hate her for how she leaves Forrest and what she did to him. But also, she went through something really traumatic as a kid, like what her father would do to her. So, I mean, I kind of understand her. Obviously, what she did to Forrest was not right at all, but when you go through something like that as a kid, that can really haunt you for the rest of your life. And she got redemption at the end, so I just honestly felt so bad for her throughout the whole film. I mean, even when she was an adult and she was like a hippie for a while, she didn't have a great boyfriend. Nobody really treated her well. She was just such a complex character. And I love Forrest for being so loyal to her. I mean, he loved her throughout his whole life. I love their relationship so much. And Lieutenant Dan had such an amazing character growth. I mean, to the fact how he was in war and it was his destiny to die, like all the other people who came before him. Kind of weird, but okay. But his friendship with Forrest was so sweet. At the end, when Forrest gets his like fisher boat and he becomes a shrimper, how he becomes his first mate like he always said he would. Fun fact, when I lived in Minnesota, we'd go to the Mall of America all the time. Well, one time we went to Bubba Gump, the restaurant, because they have like a Bubba Gump restaurant in the Mall of America. It was so flipping good, but I've never seen Forrest Gump before, so I don't really know like what it was about and why it was called Bubba Gump. But stop, that's so sad now that I know the actual reason, how his friend Bubba died in the war, so he named it after him, like Bubba and then Forrest's last name, Gump. That was so sad. When Bubba died, I legit almost started bawling my eyes out. I was like, hold it in, you're wearing mascara. This movie is a classic. I mean, everybody needs to see it in their life. Come on, it's Forrest Gump. I mean, everyone's heard that name before. Like, it's seriously, you need to watch it. Now, I really don't want to give this movie away for those of you who haven't seen it because it's not just like a basic movie. It's so much more than that. Like, you really connect to it when you're watching it. It's so visually appealing. The characters are all so amazing. You just feel so many emotions when you're watching it, and nothing that I say will really like give you that feeling or can like grasp that emotion. So I'll just leave it at that. And if you haven't seen it or honestly forgot it, you should really watch it again. Okay, in the 9th spot, we have the movie Silence of the Lambs. Now, once again, this is like a classic psychological thriller / horror. I don't really know what the genre of this movie is. Disturbing. This movie's good though. It's very cool. It is kind of slower though. It's not that scary. It's not like a horror movie. It's more of like a what is going on movie. It's kind of like the movie Seven. Like, it has the same vibe to it with like the eeriness and like has the same scare level as Seven, where it's not really scary, it's just intense and you're kind of questioning what's going on. And Hannibal Lecter, oh my gosh, he is like seriously one of my favorite villain characters. He's a fantastic, brilliant, terrifying genius. So basically this movie is about a woman named Clarice Starling, who is played by Jodie Foster, and she's a young FBI trainer who's following like this case of a terrifying dude called Buffalo Bill, who skins his female victims for a very disturbing reason, which I am not gonna spoil. It's making my skin crawl just thinking about it. But she can't catch him and doesn't really know what's going on. So she goes down to the pits of prison where the most psychologically disturbing people go to get the advice and help from a brilliant psycho Hannibal serial killer named Hannibal Lecter. And yes, I did say cannibal. This movie is brilliant. Like, it will make your skin crawl after you see it just thinking about it. It's so entertaining, so cool, and Hannibal Lecter carries the show. This seriously won so many awards too. It won Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. I mean, this movie won so many things, and it was like considered the best horror movie for its time, and probably still is to this day. Even though it's not really scary, it's just got that effect of making you feel uncomfortable. Like, this was the OG Robert Eggers. And this movie was based off a book too, which I haven't read the book, but books can be super disturbing and graphic and go way more into things and deeper into things than movies can, because movies and shows, you kind of gotta keep things going, keep things moving along, or else you just lose people's interest and it's like like a whole Nosferatu thing. Come on, let's keep it going. If you want to do this whole thing, just make a book about it. But 13-year-old me, when I was watching this, was like, whoa, now this is good. So yeah, if you have not seen this movie, watch it. Okay, number 8 on the list. Crap, is this 8 or 9? Ugh, my gosh. Curse my scatterbrain. I'm pretty sure this is 8 on the list. We have the movie 300. This is a rated R, hardcore, war, blood, guts, manly, whatever you want to call it movie. This has captured my heart. Someone commented on my Nosferatu video, like, you teenagers these days, all you want is movies that in the first 5 minutes start out with action. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, all movies should be like that. If you don't have a good starting card or intro card or something to capture people's attention, they're gonna leave, because let's be honest, we're all impatient. 300 though, now that gets your interest. That movie is action filled and the pacing is great. And oh my gosh, Xerxes is probably the finest man to ever exist. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. First time I saw him, I was pretty much in love. Okay, not actually, but he was fine, let me tell you. This movie is about King Leonidas of Spartans, the good guys. They have to go to war with the Persians, and that includes the Persian god Xerxes. Or he claims he's a god, but he's kind of a liar. We all know he's not a god. And the Persians have like 300,000 guys. Okay, so they have a whole army, and the poor Spartans only have 300. Hence the name, 300. Now, this movie is fictional. I mean, it's based off of real events that happened way back in the day with the Battle of Thermopylae. I totally botched how to pronounce that, but that's what it was based off of. Obviously, this movie is way more dramatic and way more over the top than that battle that happened years ago, back in the prehistoric ages. But it's just such a cool story. I mean, I love like the whole Roman and Greek and Spartan, like, I love the whole history behind like that timeline. I mean, it would have been so cool to live in that, even though I'm a woman, so I obviously would not have as much freedom as I do today. If men and women were equal back then, it would have been really cool to live in that time. But yeah, this movie is just really cool. The visuals are amazing. Like, it's such a dark and gritty film to match everything. The music is phenomenal. It's so dramatic and it's really like, whoa. And throughout this whole movie, your adrenaline is rushing. It's just so cool. And this movie is also directed by Zack Snyder. We love him. He does a Batman movie that I really like. I think it was The Dark Knight or something. Maybe, I can't remember, but love Zack Snyder. Or we used to. Was he the one that kind of made like trash movies recently? I honestly can't remember if he was the one or if I'm thinking of someone else, but yeah. No matter what, his directing in this movie was fantastic. So basic overview in the plot of this movie is Leonidas does not want to surrender to the Persian people in Xerxes. He wants Sparta to remain independent and be its own thing, so he has to go to war with those people, but I mean, come on. 300,000 men against 300, I mean, what are the chances? Well, he makes it pretty dang far. Leonidas is a leader. This dude is a soldier. He will forever be my inspiration. When I lead a war one day, it will be because of him. I don't want to give away what actually happens, but this dude is inspiring. I mean, you can tell his soldiers and people just look up to him, and we appreciate him as the audience. I mean, he's great. He's no Xerxes, though. Okay, I'm kind of rushing through these because, like, I don't want to edit a 17-hour long video. Now, at number 7 on the list, we have the movie Shawshank Redemption. This movie is about a guy named Andy Dufresne who was framed on murdering his wife and gets sentenced to prison for life at the Shawshank Redemption prison, even though he's innocent. But while at the prison, even though facing horrible things, I mean, come on, prison people are no joke. There's gangs, tough crowds he had to face, things I don't really feel comfortable saying. Yeah, it was a lot. But despite all that, he befriends a man named Red, aka Morgan Freeman, my man. Now, this was the first movie I ever saw with Morgan Freeman in it, and let me tell you, he was phenomenal. Like I mentioned in my 7 review, this guy always plays like the wise, older characters who know what they're talking about, they're kind of mysterious. This movie is essentially what I'm talking about. Morgan Freeman was all those characteristics in this. The plot and story in this movie are fantastic and the actors are amazing. The good news is Andy's charming, so he gets people to kind of get on his side. He befriends some prison workers and some wardens. I mean, this dude is kind of good at getting what he wants sometimes and helping people out. I haven't seen it in a while, so like I can't remember everything, but I don't want to give away the ending because the ending is phenomenal and Andy does something really awesome. This movie is older, but it holds up so well. I mean, the pictures, cinematography, the story and plot, it's just all so clean and amazing. Now, number 6 on my list, we have the movie Pan's Labyrinth. This movie is so sad and heartbreaking, but yet amazing at the same time. It's based off of a book, which I have read. Honestly, usually the books are better than the movies, like Harry Potter, for example. But honestly, I think I like the movie a little better than the book in this case. It's about a girl named Ophelia who has her mother who marries this guy, but he's like a really bad dude, and she has to live a very tough life with him. Her stepfather's like a Nazi and a part of like the German war. It was really bad. He was a brutalist and a sadist. I mean, this girl is not living in good conditions with him, but this girl sees a lot of magic in her life, and she starts going on like these adventures because she's meeting like fairies and cool things that want to help her out. They're like, hey, Ophelia, you're actually a princess from another world and your parents can find you. I mean, it's like this whole cool magical backstory with her, so she has to complete like these certain tasks in order to get back to her like real life. But the tasks are very dangerous and they're not like your fairy tale Cinderella tasks. This movie is dark. It's very sad, very, very dark. When I say like magic and she's a princess and there's fun fairies, no, I don't mean like your Cinderella in your Rapunzel. I mean like a rated R version of all those fairy tales. Now, spoiler for those of you who haven't seen this movie, so cover your ears at this part, but this is very controversial. Some people think that all her journeys and things that she went on and all like this magic, she all made it up. Like, I think that it didn't actually exist and she was just making it up because she was going through something super traumatic that a young child should not have to go through. So she needed to escape her real life world. So she created this whole story in her head because it was peaceful and happy and she needed to get away from the bad stuff. Because I'm a very interesting person. I love sad endings to movie or like tragic endings, and I love like twists and turns and like just like sad, horrible truths. Even though they like show at the end her with her parents like as a princess, I mean, it could still be interpreted the way I perceive it, that she was just needed to escape her awful life. So she created a dark, twisted fantasy in her head because she doesn't know anything good. But honestly, minus the whole storytelling and the plot and the characters, this movie is so beautiful. Even though it's dark, like, everything just ties together cinematically. Like, this movie is disturbing. Not even with, like, the bad guy, but, like, some of the creatures in her mind or, like, in the movie. Like, the one that goes like this. Ooh, that's scary. The rules are, if she would have ate something, the thing would have came to life and killed her. She wasn't supposed to eat any food, but, like, she obviously did. She could have ate a piece of cheese or meat. Like, there was so many delicious, amazing food on that table, and she decided to take a grape, and a purple one at that. See, I'm a green grape person here. I only like green grapes, hate purple grapes. But come on, if I was there and I just, obviously I wouldn't take any food because, like, I'm not stupid. But obviously she clearly doesn't get fed well and just doesn't, have a great life. So she was probably starving, and looking at that was probably torture for her. So, I mean, come on, I understand the girl. But she took a grape. Are you kidding me? I would have took a freaking turkey leg. Like, that girl needs protein. Like, come on, put it in your pocket or hold on to it, get the task done, and then eat it when you get out of there. Sorry if I'm talking kind of quiet, by the way. I recommend turning your volume up if you can't hear me that well, but my brother's on the meeting right now. He just decided to jump on the meeting while I was filming. Great. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I honestly might stop the video after this Pan's Labyrinth review and make like a part 2 out of it. So this will be part 1 of my top 12 favorite movies, and then in my next video I'll do like the finished ones. Okay, so we only have 5 more movies to go. So my top 5 will be in my next video. So kind of perfect anyway, because we all love like a top 3 and top 5. But yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is super good and you should totally check it out if you haven't seen it. Honestly, just check any of these movies out that I've listed if you haven't seen them yet, because they are all really good. And most of them are classics, so you need to see them anyway. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these movies and you love them, and I'd love to hear your top 12 or top 10 too. Make sure to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed, and go check out like my Coraline video and some of the other reviews I've done that I mentioned in this video if you want to give like a deeper review from them. But anywho, thanks for watching. I hope I'll see you around, and make sure to stay tuned for my top 5. Like, I mean, it's the continuation of my top 12, but we only got 5 more left. If I'm doing my math right, probably not, but we'll see. And I hope I'll see you around.